Okay. So, all right. Forgive me, I'm just trying to get everything off my screen. All right. The IDSA guidelines create a medical culture which penalizes doctors who treat outside their restrictive guidelines. I'm sure most of you guys have gone through this in dealing with mainstream medical professionals, and also most of your Lyme doctors. They, everything is restricted. Everything that's based on how they treat everything's essentially comes off these guidelines. There's doctors that are persecuted, possibly losing their license. I know a lot of you guys know this already. So like I said, forgive the redundancy. Insurance companies and state health departments sometimes investigate and remove the license of physicians willing to treat outside the IDSA guidelines. This is very much true in the state that I'm from, Virginia, where we're seeing a lot of doctors right now that are being witch hunted and that are up for having their medical license taken away. So it's a very real thing, and these are all reasons why we need to try and get these guidelines overturned and changed. The IDSA guidelines dismiss extensive evidence for chronic Lyme disease. And a bunch of references at the bottom. This is all stuff that will be in the documents that we have at the end. The IDSA guidelines misrepresent expert opinion as science. Only 15% of IDSA treatment guidelines are based on randomized controlled trials, which are considered the highest level of evidence. More than half are based on expert opinion or not supported by RC. And I'm getting feedback, I think. Okay, IDSA guidelines, and this is the big kicker for all of us. We need to, either there's someone talking or I'm getting a lot of feedback. IDSA treatment guidelines for Lyme have been in the hands of people for years. And give me 1 second, guys, because I'm getting a lot of feedback on my end. Sorry. Okay, I think that cleared the problem up. So let me go back. Okay, so as you can see, the same people have essentially been on the board that have reviewed the guidelines year after year, going from 2000 all the way up to 2015, with not much changing. There's a lot of conflicts of interest in this, and we're going to go over that and establish that. For those that have been around the community for a while, these are, this isn't any new knowledge or anything like that. But for the people that are new to this, that are going to be responding, this is imperative that we know. This is huge. You can't have guidelines constantly reviewed and expect to get consistent answers when you have the same exact guys doing them. So this is going to be one of our biggest gripes, and as we have a conference call with the president-elect of the IDSA, this is going to be our biggest complaint with them, and we're going to try and get this changed. So what we need is an exclusive panel of clinicians, researchers, patients, and government officials to be established to determine a new approach to Lyme disease using panel balancing recommended by government guidelines to controversial diseases. That was written by Keller in 2009. And as you can see, we're in 2015, and that is yet to happen. So this is a big issue. For the next couple slides, I'm going to actually have Savvy, who is our researcher, do these. So give me just 1 second, Savvy, and I'll give you the ability to talk, if you don't already. Okay, Savvy, I think you're unmuted and you're good to go, and I'll pull up the appropriate slides for you. Hold on. Savvy, you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Is the slide ready?
Yeah, we're on slide 24.
Sorry, I'm on my phone and my computer wasn't working. So IDSA has opened their guidelines up for public comment, as I'm sure we're all aware. So we are trying to approach this in the best way possible that will hopefully facilitate progress with the IDSA. So what you see on the screen here is an example of what we think will be, I guess, what the IDSA would like to see. We have, if you see on the screen, the IDSA wants us to include page number and line number for each of our comments. So what we've done here is we've included the line number and the page number for a piece of their plan, and we've also included corrections to the data that they've entered. The first thing, obviously, if you all have looked at the plan, like the first page, I think after the cover, they say that 30,000 cases of Lyme disease are, reported each year. We all know that's totally wrong. The CDC upped it to 300,000 in 2013. So that was the first thing I called out here. You can see that at the top. I have the line number, the page number, and that information, and I also cite the source of that information so they can see where I pulled that information from. And following that are just a few other examples of that. I have the line number, page number, and then a comment and the source of the information. So when we're doing these public comments, we want to try to fit that criteria that they have set forth, just so we're playing their game, we're playing along with them, but we're also giving them what we see and the science behind that so they get our point of view. So following all of those examples at the bottom, I have some additional comments, and in this case it's actually a quote from a peer-reviewed article from one of the IDSA authors talking about how chronic Lyme exists. And I have that quote and I have the source listed below. So when they look at this, they'll be able to pinpoint exactly where I'm getting this information from, and if they decide to look further into it, they can. So that's pretty much an example of a basic structured way that you could put your comment so they could read it and get the full background information, have that information available to them. And we have a few other examples from their plan. If you all haven't looked at their plan yet, it's listed on their website. We have the links within this PowerPoint so you can access it. They have a long list of questions that they're planning on basing their guidelines off of. And so what we did is we went through and we've got peer-reviewed evidence for each of these questions, kind of answering them. So we're hoping that what we found here will kind of guide them in developing their new guidelines, answering these questions that they're proposing. So we have 2 pages of examples here. You can take a look at those and use those to help you, it's kind of an example of how you can mold your comments to them. And of course, look over the plan, pick out the points that you feel are most important, that you feel you are most comfortable finding the science for and defending, and use those in your argument, in your comment. And I'm not sure if Josh said this, but we want to try to be nice in these comments. We're trying to build a working relationship with these doctors. A lot of the IDSA doctors have no idea about the controversy that is going on with Lyme. Like Josh said, the doctors that are in control of the guidelines have been there for about 15 years. So there are a lot of new doctors that have just joined the IDSA that have no idea that all this is going on. So our hope is that we'll get the attention of some of those doctors and we'll be able to gain footing within the IDSA and take power away from those doctors that have had all the power for the last 15 years.
Awesome. Thank you,
That's all I got to say, Josh.
I appreciate it. It's cool. All right. So, and I don't know how to remute your mic, so yeah. Well, I do. Hold on. There you go. So essentially, guys, what we're trying to do, and this isn't it, what we want you guys to do is if you visit our website, themaydayproject.org, and you go to the front page, you'll see two links, both with all the research that we've pulled, articles from, all of it's peer-reviewed. The studies are all cited, so essentially you could copy and paste from there to answer these questions accordingly. We don't want to give a cookie-cutter approach on how you should answer everything, because we don't want everything to obviously look identical. So there's going to be two documents. There's one that's only science that's been authored by IDSA guideline doctors with them admitting some form of persistent Lyme infection. And then there's just another document that has all current research, every single piece of current research proving a point and fact for chronic Lyme disease. So those are both on the maydayproject.org at the front page. There's a couple more slides I think that I missed out that I'm going to go over. And just remember, guys, when we're submitting these documents too, that you don't want to be angry in dealing with them. Like Sabby said, a lot of these doctors aren't aware of what's taken place in the past, and trying to make them aware in a professional manner is very, very important. If you message them angry and you start talking about crazy stuff like Plum Island, or you start sharing your sob story, how you lost your job and your career and stuff like that, that's very heartfelt, but medical professionals unfortunately they don't respond to that, because they could think that you have fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, and MS, a multitude of other things, so we've got to hit them with evidence. And wow, no one ever rings my doorbell. I apologize. Sabby, can you take over for 1 second, please?
Okay. I have no control over the PowerPoint, so I will try to take over. Let me see.
Okay. I'm so sorry.
I'm just going to go over. Oh, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. I apologize, guys. Things happen. I'm at my house.
Okay.
Obviously, we're not in the office. We're all volunteers. We have lives outside of this, believe it or not. So essentially, what we want to talk about, because with this coming up, most of you guys know that we have a huge rally or protest coming April, 29th, Sabby?
April 29th is the candlelight vigil, and the protest is the 30th and the 1st.
Okay, so the 30th and the 1st. And we will be having a conference that night.
The 29th.
The 29th, where we'll have several doctors speaking. We're looking to get Lee Cowden to come, and several other doctors, possibly Sam Shore, just as an educational conference, emerging science that's coming out of iLads, for people to review. And all that's free. It's a free conference. So it'll be for 4 hours, and then we're going to be doing the vigil, which we have a lot of things that we're going to be unveiling there, and then the rally, which will be for 2 days. So we're really encouraging people to get out. We will have the largest numbers that we've had in years because of the meeting with the IDSA, and because of them right now reviewing their guidelines. It's never been more imperative for people to show up for these protests. So for you guys that have not been, it's generally, obviously we're there as a community, but they're very, I don't know, you don't travel there for a feel-good experience, but you end up meeting friends, and it's a really good time for everybody. But it also gives you the ability to feel like you're a part of something bigger than yourself, and I think that's massive as we protest there. And generally every year there's media coverage. We're planning on hopefully the biggest year of media coverage, bar none. So if you're able to make it out, we'd highly encourage you, especially if you're in the VA, DC, Pennsylvania, New York, North Carolina area. Obviously, people have come as far as California. But if you're in that mid-Atlantic area, we would really, really urge you to come out to both the vigil and the protest. So let's see.
Josh?
Yes.
Am I still unmuted? The vigil is actually April The visual is April 30th, and after the protest, and the protest is May 1st, and the conference is the 29th. Sorry.
That's right.
Make sure the dates are straight here.
Okay. Yeah, if you guys go to our website, where the data, everything, if you go to the maydayproject.org, or if you go to Facebook and you go to our Mayday page or Instagram or stuff like that, all the posters have the correct dates and correct information. Line brain happens, so dates get mixed up and stuff like that. So a couple other points, and we bounced around. We want to discuss the importance of using science when you, not only when you protest, but when you deal with these doctors. And for you guys that were in Philadelphia, a lot of you guys had opportunities to speak with doctors, and they were very, very, very receptive. And a lot of people did a really good job in not talking about personal stories, but really trying to share science. But we really want to try and equip the community and those attending the protest to not talk about how many PICC lines you've had and what you had to go through, but more or less, if you do happen to get on the news, share science, and then, if the interview asks you, or if the doctor asks you, then share a little bit of your story, but put a heavy emphasis on science, because a lot of these doctors unfortunately don't know. They take these guidelines as the Bible and essentially roll with them without, doing any kind of research or anything like that. Avoid pseudoscience websites and theories. A lot of us treat holistically, and that's fantastic. Unfortunately, mainstream doctors won't believe in that. So when we hit them with evidence, all the evidence that you need to be able to engage them is on our website. And when you talk to them, just make sure your message is clear. This goes for submitting. When you submit your document, what I would suggest, I'm like the master of typos, and anybody will tell you that. Put it in a Word document, notepad, whatever, type it out. Make sure it looks clear, concise, that it reads really well. And then, paste it back into the field and put it in there. The easier it is for them to read, the more chance they have of looking over it. If it's sloppy, if stuff's misspelled, if we're not citing where these studies are coming from, then more than likely they're just going to pass it along. You want to stay away from, messages, and this is just our opinion. Obviously, you're free to do what you will, but you want to stay away from messages of anger, how, X, Y, and Z doctor screwed you over. We really don't want to do that. We want to try and be as professional with these people as possible and maintain a good working relationship with them. We're not looking to get anybody prosecuted or put anybody on trial or put heads on a stake. We essentially just want the guidelines reversed in our favor, or just in favor of science in general, so that we can move on with better testing and eventually a cure, and with our doctors having the ability to treat us without fear of being persecuted. So pretty much the same thing that I just said there. How to use science when you're protesting. It's pretty easy. A lot of these studies are, if you know about Lyme disease and you've talked with your doctor, then some of the science might be really relevant to you, and you'll be aware of it. But become familiar with the science, past and current. Read peer-reviewed articles that support our cause, and then read articles that don't support our cause, so you're able to refute them. It makes a lot of sense. If we go to a doctor only citing ILADS documents or peer-reviewed studies that have only come out of Lyme camps, then more than likely these doctors are going to roll their eyes. But if you're able to spit off studies and science that's come from their side of the fence, then essentially you've backed them into a corner. And what we've seen is they don't know how to respond, which is always a good thing. So let's see. Okay. Most importantly, when we're using science, guys, be diplomatic. Many of the IDSA doctors and doctors in general are completely unaware of the controversy surrounding Lyme. We said this, but Philadelphia was really eye-opening for us, because we were able to engage with a lot more doctors than we thought that we would. And it was mind-blowing how many were unaware of the controversy behind it, and even unaware of how big of an issue it was. As we went into ID week, there was thousands and thousands of people there, and they had medical posters essentially stating what things are being researched. And I think that there was one poster out of probably, I don't know, how many posters do you think were there, Sabby? 3,000 to 5,000?
Yeah, there were a lot of I don't know if there were that many, but there were a lot.
Okay, there was quite a bit, and there was maybe one or two on Lyme disease, and it's really unfortunate with it being such a large scale disease, but the doctors aren't aware, so there's no research. So that's why we've got to continue to fight. When working with the IDSA and the doctors, we've talked about being cordial and stuff. It's important that we create allies with these doctors and not enemies, and that's why it's important that as we speak in dialogue, that we're not condescending, that we're respectful of the fact that they're a doctor, even if we've been done wrong by doctors in the past. A lot of them have egos, and we're looking to get treatment, and we're looking for them to help us. They're not going to help us if we're rude to them. So just be mindful of that. Again, these links right here, we're going to be posting the event that's recorded out live probably an hour after we're done. We'll have all the links to all of the information that we've quoted and cited and said that you're able to use probably at the bottom of these. And again, all of it can be found on our website. Let's see. Okay, here we go. This is a good one. The IDSA needs to revise their guidelines to follow Kathleen Lohr's 4 important attributes of clinical practice guidelines: reliability, predictability, scientific validity, clinical applicability, clinical flexibility. This includes routine maintenance to ensure guidelines are relevant and reflective of current science and information. A lot of what we've shared, guys, is information that's already out there. It's just what we're trying to do is compile it so where it's one easy place where everybody can access it, specifically for the new people that are coming into the community that really aren't aware of what's going on. So essentially, in the long term, what are our goals? Improve testing, further research on diagnosis, co-infections, and treatment, security for doctors and insurance companies for patients. Most importantly, treatment decisions should be made on a case-by-case basis between the doctor, the patient, physician. I'll say this and then we'll open it up for questions. One of the main nails that they drove home at ID Week was that they want doctors to start being more responsible with antibiotic use. And this has nothing to do with Lyme disease and all with creating bacteria-resistant superbugs. So this was the main theme at their conference. It didn't have anything to do, like I said, with Lyme patients. It wasn't MRSA, it wasn't AIDS, it wasn't Ebola, and this was right during the middle of the Ebola crisis. It was the overprescription of antibiotics. So when talking with these doctors, when corresponding with these doctors, we don't want to say we're trying hard to get long-term antibiotics, because what happens and what we've seen, even if that's what works for some people, what we've seen is that automatically turns them off because it's not a cure. So yes, it helps, and yes, that's eventually what we want, is the doctors to be able to treat on a patient-by-patient basis, but we essentially need chronic Lyme accepted before anything else happens. So we can't jump the gun on several other things. Our goal primarily in getting the guidelines overturned is that they accept chronic Lyme. So I would encourage you guys, as you go through all of our information, to just read over it very well. I mean, it's a good night of reading, and a lot of it's eye-opening. And read over their full documentation and what it is exactly that they're asking before you just randomly type in the box, what it is, what your thoughts and hearts are. And I think that's pretty much it. So what we're going to do now is open this to any questions that anybody has. And I think we got about a half hour for questions. So give me 1 second. I'm going to, all right, here's how we're going to do this, because the chat function isn't working well. And if you guys could do this politely, I'll unraise your hand. If you have a question, I'll unmute you, and we'll go from there. So everybody's hand is not raised. If you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand in chat, and I'll unmute you, and you're more than welcome to answer it. Okay, let's see. We have Alicia. No, That's Wendy Dollinson. Hey, Alicia, how are you?
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you?
Oh, hi. Okay, I do have a question.
Sure, shoot.
Do you have all of the most important documents on the Mayday project website already? Or
Yeah.
are you encouraging that we do our own research?
Yeah, if you go to the front page, it's literally right at the top. Even if you access it on your phone, it's right at the top of the page. It is a lot of reading that you'll have to go through, specifically when you're answering the format of questions that they have. But there should be an answer to quite a bit of the questions that they ask. And you know, when you're filling out the questionnaire that they have or the questions that they have, don't feel compelled to answer everything. I think there's some about insect repellent and just other nonsense questions. Just answer what you feel comfortable with and submit it. But yeah, all the information's up there.
Okay.
Did you have anything else, Alicia? Okay. Okay, we've got Deb. Hey, Deb, how are you?
Hi, Josh. This is Deb, Girl Deb here in Eugene. Thank you so much for putting this together. I love the work that you guys are doing, and I love the direction that you're going. I have a couple of questions. And first is what are we doing to get IDSA test results accepted by the IDSA?
I'll be honest with you, upfront and honest. We haven't done anything specifically with the IDSA to get IDSA labs accepted, simply because I feel the first step in this, and I believe IDSA labs are completely a valid way to diagnose Lyme disease. That's how I was diagnosed. That's how I think probably 75% of us have been diagnosed. But what I see is before they accept these labs as a diagnosis, unfortunately they've been known to take blows at IDSA and call them pseudoscience. You know, their labs aren't valid, which we know all isn't true. So we essentially haven't taken any steps to make that an effort. But I think that it's a valid point to try and do that. It's just not something that we've worked on to this point.
Okay, that's great. And then I know that this is like a TNT or a very explosive issue, but are we doing anything to work on the insurance industry and their buy-in to how we're going to properly diagnose and treat Lyme patients down the road? And I know this is very convoluted, and we have a huge group of people with a lot of money on the insurance side, but I'm curious, I mean, if you feel like you want to sidestep this and not discuss it now, I really respect that.
No, I'm completely fine. And Allison, I'm going to unmute you too, so you can feel free to step in at any time you'd like. So Allison, you're unmuted. As far as the insurance companies go, I don't believe that anything is going to change, obviously, as long as we have the current guideline authors that have continued to stay on there, because we all know where, you know, money's being put in their back pockets, and there's huge conflicts of interest aside from the same people being on the board over and over again. So as far as the conflicts of interest, which we generally don't get too much involved in, there's some, and they're asking for the conflicts of interest that we've thrown them out there. Obviously, insurance is covering our treatments, and our form of treatments is primary goal, but that won't be done or accepted until chronic Lyme, and I hate using the term chronic Lyme, persistent Borrelia infection, whatever it is that people want to call it, Borrelia complex. What needs to happen is the IDSA needs to recognize a persistent infection, and at that point, I think that's when insurance companies will start picking up long-term treatment. Till then, if insurance companies don't have a valid reason to believe that there's an active infection past 2 to 4 weeks of doxycycline, they're not gonna cover it. So until the IDSA says, okay, hey, look, there is a persistent infection past this, 2 to 4 weeks of doxycycline didn't clear this up, we have an issue here. There's definitely bacteria that's still in these people. Until that point, and until they admit that point, we're probably still going to be waiting for insurance companies to pick it up. And I know that's not as in-depth as we'd like, but I think that's a general overhead. As far as what's being done, like I said, our primary goal in the guidelines is just getting them to accept our disease as a real disease and no longer being told that what we have is imaginary.
I think that's great. Thank you so much for all of what you guys are doing. I fully support you.
No problem. Thanks, Deb. And I know you're doing good things up there, so I appreciate it. Anybody else have a question? Okay, we've got Deb, got you. Okay, we will go with Rebecca. Okay, Rebecca, you're unmuted.
Thanks, Josh. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for doing this. I have a quick question.
Sure.
I was hoping you could talk a little bit more about what action we could take or not when it comes to the guideline authors and trying to get a more open group on there.
Okay, so I can tell you guys what approach we're taking, and then after that we're obviously going into Mayday, going into the event. We always give I don't know if we call them operations or items that the community can do for those that can't make it, and this is going to be one of the things that we're going to really hammer hard, is to get the current guideline authors off there and get not such a biased group of people. It is a huge conflict of interest, and we obviously need to have them removed. So what we're doing is we meet with the president of the IDSA on the 20th, and as we meet with him, that's going to be the first topic that we bring up, is these guys being on there. This will be their 4th or 5th time. That's completely unacceptable. If you look through any other peer-reviewed medical guidelines for anything, you will never see anything like this that hasn't been considered a scandal in the news. So why and how it's been able to get away this long is, I mean, it's mind-blowing. So essentially what our plan is as we talk to the IDSA president, if he agrees to work with us and he doesn't just give us an appeasing answer, or just gives us a conference call to shut us up, we're hoping that he'll work with us. If he doesn't, then the first thing this is doing is it's going to the media, and it's going to the media hard. We're fundraising right now to run PSAs on Fox News, MSNBC, and CNN. So it would be in their best interest, and obviously we're not threatening them. We're not trying to blackmail them or anything like that. We're approaching them in a very professional manner. We're hoping now that there's fresh blood, that there's a new president coming on board. The current president that's coming on board is very prestigious. I don't think he wants his name rolled under the bus. This is one of the most prestigious doctors that they've had as president, I believe, since the IDSA has been in existence. So that's what we're doing. As far as what you guys can do, when you are submitting your public comment, I would make sure that that is at the top of everybody's list, that the conflict of interest and the doctors, and I believe that even as you go through there, that's listed. That's a short answer as far as what you can do. We're obviously going to be brainstorming about stuff after this conference call with the IDSA president. After that, we'll have a better idea of what we need to tackle and how we can try and equip the community to approach it.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh.
No problem. Thank you, Rebecca, for your question. Okay, Ruth James. Hey, Ruth, how are you?
Fine, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sure can.
Cool. First of all, I just wanted to say thanks so much for doing this. It's really, sorry about my dog.
No, it's okay.
It's really helpful to both be able to see the slides as well as to know that they're going to be on your website, so that can be shared online or wherever. I do have a question. I help admin a large group of women, and they're angry and they're hurt, and I get that.
Right.
And so I want to be able to say, hey guys, let's stick with science. Here's the links. Here's how we can help each other edit, so on and so forth. At the same time, there's still going to be a lot of anger.
Right.
And I'm wondering what suggestions you might have for how to redirect. So people both feel, okay, I understand, I'm not suggesting they redirect within the scope of this plan here.
Right.
But I am wondering, how can we assist people in kind of being able to vent, being able to feel like their feelings have been heard, and then put that aside in order to deal with science?
Okay, well, let me give you, I think I can probably answer this best, and it won't be too long-winded. If I give you a little bit of background about the Mayday project, 3 people started this. My primary reason of coming against the IDSA was I lost a very good friend to Lyme disease. She was only 32 years old, very sick and constantly rejected, went through probably the same thing that we did, but she died right as she got engaged. And like I said, I was really, really, really good friends with her. That obviously infuriated me. I've been in the community now for about 7 or 8 years, and I've lost friends. I myself am sick. It's amazing that, you know, we always say we don't look sick, but I've lost my career. I've lost everything, you know, that I've worked so hard for. So I completely understand the anger, and that's essentially how I started off in Mayday. Is we started off as an angry group of people that was going to protest in front of the White House, and we were going to march and get our ways, and we were going to share our stories, and we were going to be heard. And we did that for, I don't know, Allison, what, 3 years? Okay. Allison probably fell asleep. It's okay. But we did that for probably like 3 years, and we realized that we weren't making any headway, that no one was really listening to what we said. And I had a really good doctor come to me and tell me that when you approach people in an angry manner, unless you're a huge mob, you're never going to get what you're looking for. Unless it's done calmly. Like I said, I mean, if we were to show up to at the IDSA with 5,000 people with pitchforks and stuff like that, I believe things would change, but I don't think that that's realistic just because so many people are sick. So right now, the game that we're playing is they've opened their doors to us. They're open to dialogue right now. They're essentially semi-participating with us. So just, I guess the way to calm down and to really evaluate everything is to look at, are my emotions more important than possibly ruining a chance at change, a chance towards a cure, a chance towards research, a chance towards those that are just getting sick to get better, you know, better diagnostics, better treatment. I mean, there's so much that's on the line. And in all reality, if I'm a doctor, if I'm a professional, and I'm going through stuff and I'm getting a bunch of hate mail, the first thing that I'm going to do is get very angry. And there's a lot of very angry people, and that bitterness generally resides in them, and you can see it come out. So I think the best thing to do before sitting down and writing it is maybe evaluate why you're writing and the importance of your message and what you're trying to convey. And is your message going to help, or is it going to be destructive? And obviously we can't tell people what to do, but when you send that message, when you hit send, are you going to feel good about what you sent? Or, I mean, is it simply a revenge message? I'm just as angry, you know, that I've lost my life from 26. I'm 34 years old now. You know, I had 3 to 4 years where I couldn't leave the house. I was in a wheelchair. You know, I had to be fed. I couldn't tell you what my name was or who the President of the United States was. So I get the anger part, and there's a large part of me that still is very angry. But I just don't think that it's the time or the place. And just, like I said, reevaluating your feelings before you post and making sure that, you know, you're doing not only what's best for you, but what's best for the community as a whole.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks. I think that that's something then that I can go ahead and stress. Perhaps maybe even offering people a vent thread or whatever.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea.
What's your goal? Your goal is to get the rules changed, and the way to do that is to use science.
Right, and I think you're very right. Giving people a place to vent about their doctors and just to get it out, because people do need to speak about it. You can't harbor that anger. You can't constantly be upset and just hold that inside. So I think giving people an opportunity to just talk about it, because there is a lot of hurt. I mean, we've been betrayed by doctors. We've been shunned by family. We've been swept under the rug. There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of anger. It's not fair, but I think evaluating what's going to be best for us in the long run is very important.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Thank you for your question, Ruth. I appreciate it. Okay, let's see who we got. Okay, Marcia. Marcia. I thought I saw your hand up. Okay, there we go. Hey, Marcia, how are you?
Hi, Josh. I'm good. It's good to see you, and thank you so much for doing this. Just one suggestion on the question that was just asked, because it's on my mind. Sure. One thing I found helpful in my life in general with that sort of thing is to write a letter that you never send. So it might be something in a group setting that you could all write a letter and burn it if you have to get it out before you answer these questions. But that wasn't my question. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering, I know that you don't want to have a cookie cutter answer that you give to everybody, but there are a lot of people that can't read a lot, and I don't mean this to sound bad, but there's a lot of lazy people too that just aren't going to take the time to read it. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering, in those cases, is there a way to say, maybe give them 4 or 5 different options for this question? Hey, say something to this effect, maybe not word for word, but give them little snippets, kind of like a line brain here, like a Cliff Notes version that people could go to, so that we can get more people to really use the science in answering this, because I'm afraid if they get stuck with reading it, a lot of people just aren't going to do it.
Yeah, no, actually, Marcia, I think that's a very good question. And let me ask one thing. Hey, Amber, do you know if once we hit 9 o'clock, if this automatically cuts off, or if we're able to go over?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm not really sure. So it looks like we have about 6 minutes left, and if it does cut off, we're sorry, guys. This is our first time using this.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and answer your question, Marcia. I know that you know, because I know you personally, but we are a very small group of volunteers, and we try to get everything together as much as possible. And I try to be as cordial as possible, even when, sometimes there's a lot of, you said it very well, there's lazy people that unfortunately won't want to do the work. And, that's understandable. We're sick for whatever reason, it might not get accomplished. But what we can try and do is I'll work with Savvy and Amber and see if we can put together some cookie cutter responses. It won't be today, because I can tell you that we're all exhausted from running around trying to get this together for tonight. We had no idea that they'd come up and say that they're looking to review their guidelines last night. But what we're going to do, or what we'll try and do, is come together with some generic responses for some of the questions. Not all of them. We're not going to go through all 48 questions, because some of them, like I said, should you use bug spray or nonsense questions like that, I mean, people can just answer, and some of them are just yes or no's. But the ones that are very important, of course, I think we'll try and get that out. What is today? Today's Tuesday. Probably by Friday, for those that that can't read well, or whatever issues they have, we'll do that. So, and if there's anybody here that wants to volunteer to do that, please inbox me. We've got a lot going on with planning the event in May, and several other events that are going on. So we're always welcome to volunteers. We've also got the Mayday Project Green Team, which has been a huge success. It's a group of people that have been helping us out with tasks exactly like this, without being completely involved with having to step on board. So maybe that's a task that we can put in there. But I definitely think that it's a very valid and good idea, and we need to get it done. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Josh. You're the best. I love all you guys, and you're doing amazing things, and I can't wait to see you.
Awesome. Can't wait to see you too, Marcia. All right, let's see. Who has their hand up? We still got people. Okay, Jerry Dobson, you're up. How are you tonight, Jerry?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I sure can. Can you hear me?
Good. So I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm good. The first question is, the goal is to get them to acknowledge chronic Lyme.
Correct.
I know that a physician is going to retort and say, well, how do you expect to do that with long-term antibiotics? What should be the response back to that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question? You're asking how a physician should treat chronic Lyme, or?
No, so our goal is to get the IDSA to recognize prolonged or chronic Lyme.
Right, right.
And I have a feeling that there's going to be a physician that's going to say, well, how do you expect to do that? Long-term antibiotics, which when you said last year at the ID that the push was to not have prolonged antibiotics, is there a comment back that to kind of like tap dance that retort?
Yeah, so I'll give you guys my reasoning. Like I said, at ID week, obviously the whole antibiotic scale, and that's essentially what the IDSA thinks as the Lyme community. What we're trying to do is they think that our biggest goal is to push for long-term antibiotic use. They think that it's what we think saves our lives, and for some that is very much the case. But if they bring up antibiotics to you, and when you're talking about persistent Lyme, post-Lyme syndrome, whatever term they coined it as,
Right.
tell them that you're not there to advocate for long-term antibiotic use. You're just trying to get them to recognize, that there is a persistent infection, and essentially we're looking for better treatment. Because while antibiotics do work, I think it's generally well noted and agreed that it's not a cure, that it's brutal, that it's never 100%, that it's not the long-term answer that we want. So we definitely want research in terms of there being a cure. And if that's different antibiotics, I mean, I don't know. We need more studies. But essentially, telling them cyberly, hey, look, we're not looking for you to right now approve long-term antibiotic use right now. We want doctors to be able to treat how they see fit.
Right, case by case.
Yeah, on a case-by-case basis. It should be at their discretion. Just like a cancer doctor comes in, he treats at his discretion. We want our doctors to be able to treat the same way. Same thing with MS or lupus or whatnot. They have treatment options. We want our doctors to be able to have that, but instead of engaging in that conversation with them, sidestep, say, there's so much evidence and so much peer-reviewed science that suggests there's a chronic infection. That's what we want you guys to accept first. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, it does. And the last question is the new president, because I haven't read much about him yet.
Right.
Does he have his hands in any pot?
No. As much research as I've done in him, he's a very, very prestigious gentleman. He held some pretty high titles, and not that this matters to any of us, because doctors are doctors, but he's held prestigious titles at Harvard Medical. He's on like 5 or 6 different boards, and just in dealing with him, like I said, he's been very cordial. So from what I've read, and I couldn't really find anything negative about him as I kind of stalked him on the internet. But I think we'll find out more once we talk to him and get a better feel of how he's trying to receive us as a community.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem, Jerry.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. All right. Cool. All right, Corey James. How are you, Corey?
Yes, I'm great.
That's good.
My question for you, Josh, is my 10-year-old is going to be interviewed sometime this weekend. She did a project at school, and it was on Lyme disease awareness. Okay. My question is to help everybody out, what can we do, or what can she say to help us out as far as bringing awareness and
Right. So I think the first thing, and just because, I mean, it's an overstated number because we're so used to it. Do you mind me asking what area you live in?
we live in Monaga, Minnesota.
Okay, Minnesota.
It's,
Okay.
yeah.
So I think one of the biggest things, and it's not common knowledge, and it should be common knowledge. If there's any other disease that affected the country at 300,000 strong, it would constantly be national news media. I'll give you a couple examples. West Nile, how many did that affect? Not very many, but it was always national news, scare tactics. Same thing with Ebola, just different health crises. So I think a good starting fact, just giving to the news, because like I said, a lot of people aren't generally aware, and you still see a lot of old news stations quoting the 30,000, is just say that, you know, Lyme is upwards of 300,000 cases per year, that it can be deadly, that it's much more serious than, you know, the arthritic, you know, perception that people have, like, oh, I have bad joints or joint pain like that. But also going into, you know, just how much, and I'm really sorry to hear that your son's 10 and sick. That's heartbreaking.
Daughter.
I'm sorry, you said he's 5?
It's my daughter.
Oh, your daughter.
My daughter, she's 10 years old, and she, like last year, and for Mayday, she stands in the corners with a sign. She tells everybody to do what they can to check themselves. So she's a good advocate. So this time, now that she's going to be having an interview at the paper because of her project, I just wanted to ask you what. I don't want her to leave anything out, especially if it's going to be important to bring awareness to help everybody out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I completely understand, and I think that when you're interviewing with the local media like that, when it's an isolated story, that, you know, obviously there's certain times when you want to share your story and it's heartfelt, especially a 10-year-old girl being sick. They're obviously going to want to know her story, but I think starting with the 300,000 number, just how sick people are, and just, you know, just the basic facts of Lyme disease, how it's affected, you know, her, you know, what symptoms has she had, and this is more of a personal story, but also you're more than welcome to refer them to our website for resources if they want to research more on, you know, the controversy behind it, and, you know, why there's so many people that are not being diagnosed, and how does someone stay sick for a long time. You know, for a 10-year-old to sit and go over science, I think it looks like it's a little more doctored, opposed to, you know, her just sharing her heart, and which I think that in and of itself will get awareness. You put a 10-year-old girl on the news sharing that she's sick, that's heartbreaking. So I hope that answers it. I know that isn't the best answer, but
yeah, that's what I told her. I told her, you know what, there could be 100 of us adults standing and trying to get somebody to listen. I said, but they don't want to listen. I said, but when you speak, they'll hear what you have to say.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. When children speak, that's one thing, and we've noticed. I love seeing kids come to Mayday, and it's a very loud message when you see kids that are sick with Lyme disease just standing there. So.
That wasn't me.
Well, Corey, I appreciate your question, and I thank you guys for your support and for showing up at Mayday.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you
so much. And she's listening to you too, Josh, so you know.
Awesome. Well, tell her good luck with her interview.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys, thank you. All right, let's see. We'll take 3 more questions, and then we will close up. Allison, did you raise your hand because you wanted to talk?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Let me see here. So actually, we'll cut off all hand raising now, and I'll just answer the questions that we have. Wendy Donaldson, how are you tonight?
Hey, Josh, I'm great. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I sure can.
Okay. So I know it's already been brought up, so I didn't really want to beat a dead horse, but one of the things I was really concerned about in reading all the documents is about all the conflicts of interest, because I don't believe that all of their conflicts have been listed from what I read,
Right.
except for that somewhere in the doctor's documents, I think it said like in the last 2 years. But some of these doctors like Auerwater, Steer, and Wormser, and Halperin are like some of our biggest problems. So getting chronic Lyme recognized with them on the panel is going to be difficult to do. And some of them hold patents. And I'm just wondering if you are aware of this, if you have this information to confront about, and do we have a backup plan of doctor suggestions to replace these people on the panel? Because I don't know how they went about selecting the panel. Whether people got to apply for it or not, because we didn't hear anything about it prior. So, but that's one of my biggest concerns. You know, we can answer questions and refute the information all day, but if those 4 people are going to discount it, what's it going to do for us?
Well, here's essentially what we're going to do is when we talk to the president of the IDSA, I'm going to find out what the selection process is that's being done, because you can't just roll over the same doctors year after year after year. That's just, if you research any other medical studies or guideline reviews, you'll never see this. It's not something that you regularly see. Even with the IDSA on other infectious diseases, like for instance MRSA, like if you go through and look at the guidelines for treatment for MRSA, you'll never see the same doctors on there. So obviously we know that there's conflicts of interest that are there. How hard, I'm sorry, what?
We need fresh meat.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're doing. So when that's our main request when we speak with them, is we're requesting that there be different doctors that are put on the board, that we don't want any of you shouldn't have the guys that author this document, we all know this, reviewing it over and over and over again, because obviously, you know, would you admit that you're wrong? Probably not. We know that there's money in their back pockets. And we've taken 5 of the most common and most incriminating conflicts of interest, and that's what we're going to be approaching Dr. Calderwood with in regards to this. I don't assume that coming into this that he's aware of this. With the IDSA, even though their headquarters is small, they're a massive organization. Every infectious disease doctor in the country, and then a lot all over the world, are members. So he's responsible for quite a bit. So he might not necessarily even be aware of the scandal or the nonsense behind this. When
might not be aware that they're holding some patents that have to do with Lyme disease and the vaccine and several different patents, you know, and to me that's really important.
Exactly. So once and some of the conflicts of interest that we have, that's definitely on there. So as we share that with him, and I mean it's plain as day, anybody can get on the internet and find it out. It's not like it's hidden. So once we present that to him, our question is going to be, all right, so what now? You have these people that are on your guideline panel that are coming year after year after year with these conflicts of interest. And not only do they have conflicts of interest, they're all these doctors are on record saying that there is a persistent form of infection in one way or another. And all those studies are the ones, your audio connection has been lost. Can you guys still hear me? Really? Seriously? What the frickin' heck? You knocked down internet. Who? Open the door. You guys have been horrible. Quiet! Test, test, test. Test. Can you guys hear me? Hello, hello, hello. right, can you guys hear me?
Okay, yeah. I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I lost connection. I apologize for that. But yeah, I apologize. I don't even know where we left off at.
Well, you were talking to me. This is Wendy.
Yeah. So
And I'm
essentially,
reiterating again about some of the patents that these doctors hold. And are you going to be armed with that kind of information? Are you prepared to do that?
Right.
Do we have doctors to suggest for them, or
right.
what have
So
you?
essentially, as far as the doctors to suggest, what we're straying away from is they're going to, and this is what we discussed, and there's actually going to be a call with all the essential Lyme leaders of all across the community of all the major Lyme organizations before we go into this conference. So we're taking information all the way around from people that have been in this for a while, just so we have a balanced approach when we go in there. As far as doctors, and this is just my suggestion, and like I said, this isn't what we're going in there. Obviously, if it was up to me, we'd put all ILADS doctors on the panel. We know that that's not feasible. Even if they were to just bring in new, doctors that were doing, there's a lot of doctors that wouldn't consider themselves Lyme literate that are aware of a persistent infection and are doing research on it. They just, a lot of them don't believe in long-term antibiotics, or they don't believe that once you get bit by a tick that you get all these co-infections, and that all obviously relies on faulty labs, so we can't confirm that. So as far as suggestions on doctors, I don't even know if that's something that they'll allow us to ask, but it's definitely something that we're going to present. So what our idea was is first contact, we're not going to be on the phone with any doctors, just Dr. Calderwood. And after that, once we establish a connection, we have 2 doctors lined up, and we're not going to disclose their names yet per the request, but they're people that we have in mind and that are willing to step up to this. We've just got to see if the IDSA is willing to do these. And they're very much middle of the road. Like I said, they're not ILADS members, but they do believe in chronic Lyme, and they want to see more research in this. And one of the great things that the president did say when we were corresponding is that he realizes that there's a lot that's not known about this disease, and he agrees that more money and funding needs to go to research. Now, obviously, that doesn't fall on ILADS. They don't control how much money. They don't even do the research. Right now, they're responsible for the guidelines. So I'm very hopeful that he's receptive to this, but as far as being able to pick the panel of doctors, we don't have suggestions across the board, but we do have 2 doctors that are suggestions that we're trying to get on the next phone call that we have with him.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks for all the work you do. And is there any way you can send out the PowerPoint? I couldn't read all of it. The print was too small.
Yeah. Actually, the Sabby, we'll be able to send out the PowerPoint or put it on the website, right? Yeah, she probably falls
Actually, I can put it on the website, yes.
Okay, all right.
Great.
So we'll have the PowerPoint presentation on the website, so you'll be able to take a look at it. So
Great. Thank you very much.
thank you very much for your question.
Yeah, I'm proud of you for all you do. Thank you for fighting for us.
Thank you, Wendy. I appreciate
Good
it.
job.
All right, let's see. What we got. All right. All right. I hope that I'm saying this all right. And if I'm butchering your name, you can totally kill me. But I think it's Lucynthia. Is that right?
That's correct.
How are you, Lucynthia?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there.
Good. I've got my son here. He is, how old are you, Shaheen?
25.
He's 25. He has chronic Lyme as well,
Okay.
as well as my sister-in-law. First of all, thank you very much. I really, truly appreciate what you guys are doing from the bottom of my heart. And the thing is that I wish that I could do more. What I've done is I have an idea, and see if you can figure it out for me and help me out with it.
Okay.
Take a bite out of Lyme. They have brochures on their website. My husband and I, we have taken those, and I have those that I carry with me in an envelope. And so what I do is, as I'm out, I always talk to anybody that I can, and I ask them, the question I ask is, do you know what chronic Lyme is? And do you know, it's very surprising how many people have no idea.
Yeah.
Some believe, oh yeah, we got it from a tick. They don't know about the co-infections. They don't realize what we have to live with.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is there a way, I don't know how we could do it, but that you would have something that would explain what is happening right now with ILATs? Something that, just to get the public aware, because they really don't have any idea. And if we did, would that help?
Yeah, so I think that it would help with awareness. And again, forgive me if I'm asking too personal a question. What area are you located in?
Oh no, it's not. You can ask me any question. We're in Houston, Texas,
okay.
Where chronic Lyme does not exist.
Yeah.
And I've even had a friend that had a friend, and it doesn't exist here.
Gotcha. Yeah. So
we know it does.
Yeah. No. Well, there's actually someone.
Can I say something?
Yeah. Of course. Of course.
Texas A&M professor. I even spoke with her. They did research here. Can't remember her name right now because I can't think 100%. But she did talk to me, and they did come in. They did find here peer-reviewed papers that Lyme disease does exist in their area.
Yeah, it does without a doubt. We've actually got someone on our committee that that's from Texas, I believe. Sandy the Squirrel, are you from Texas or Dallas? I think she's
Dallas,
from,
Texas. Yep.
Yeah, she's from Dallas.
Oh.
She has Lyme disease.
My name is not Sandy. I'm Amber. I'm Amber, by the way.
Okay. So anyway, but yeah, I think essentially when you live in areas that aren't considered by their local health departments as endemic, you have a lot of people that are ignorant, unfortunately. And I think that you're doing a great thing by printing off and handing out brochures. I honestly wish that we had more people in the community that would be that, dedicated to doing things like that, because I think that's how you spread. That's how you get the word out. And, you never know. You could save someone's life. That brochure, someone could get Lyme disease, or their sister could have Lyme disease. And you know what? They could be symptomatic and not even know, and go 2-3 years misdiagnosed, and next thing you know, they're chronic, and they're trying to figure out what's wrong with them. So as far as educating that way, I think that you're doing a fantastic job. What else was it that you were asking? I'm sorry, my brain's kind of just.
Well, actually, that's okay. Me too. So I guess what it is that I feel miserable and I hurt, but I'm a very positive person. And so for me to get out there and to do something and make a change, because I can see it, it's overwhelming. It is just, it's totally overwhelming for me. I have to do something. So if you guys have anything at all, just let me know what it is that I can do on my end, and I'm there.
Actually, you have no idea how much I appreciate that. And if, like I said, we have what's called, we just instated it this year, it's called the Mayday Project Green Team. And we have things that people in the community can do that actually would help on a grand scale. Generally, as we get closer to our events, we have a lot of things that people can do to participate that make a huge difference. Last year, I know a lot of people here called in and were able to help get us news coverage. We slammed the IDSA. We shut them down for the day. For you guys that don't know, we literally shut their building down. They all went home early from work. We flooded their fax lines, their email, their phones, and we're probably not going to do that this year since we're trying to play nice, depending on how they do. But we always have stuff that needs to be done, and what we're trying to do is compile the community and find out what people's skill sets are and see how we can apply them to certain jobs, because we definitely always have a lot of stuff that goes on. Like, for instance, us setting up this webinar tonight, this isn't something that any of us have expertise in, so we were kind of scrambling around. But yeah, I mean, what we'll do is when we post this up on our website and stuff, we'll have links to the Mayday Project Green Team, and it's a group on Facebook. We'll add you. There's instructions on there as far as how to sign up for different things. And yeah, I appreciate your question.
Okay, that sounds good then. And so, for example, what you do have up right now, it's okay for me to use what you guys have up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
For example, any information on there, I can copy that and I can put it on the flyer of my own.
Right. So any information that we have posted or any information that's on our website, you're more than welcome to use. We do ask on the studies that have been compiled together, because it's taken months and months and months of that at least that you credit the Mayday Project for the document. Most of them are watermarked, so you can't. But aside from that, yeah, I mean, the facts that are in this PowerPoint, by all means, copy and paste them and use them as you see fit. The only documents that we ask that you credit to the Mayday Project are the ones that we've compiled, consisting of the scientific data. But I mean, like I said, you can't really copy and paste them. They're all watermarked across the document. So.
Sounds good. Well, once again, thank you guys very much. We really appreciate it. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your question, and keep doing what you're doing. All right, let's see. I think unless anybody has any other questions, that was it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close this up, guys. I want to encourage you guys. I don't know how many of you guys were in Pennsylvania with us. I see, Samantha's in here. I see a lot of people I see at least 4 or 5 people that were in Philadelphia with us. And the way I see Bambi's in here, the way that we ended in Philadelphia was pretty emotional. We all joined arms and we, formed a big circle. And we talked about what it would take to change the face of Lyme disease for us to make it to where we feel like there'll be real change. And the only way that we came is unity as a community, and to keep, and I didn't mean for that to rhyme, I promise, that was so corny. But for us to come together as a community and work and essentially just not bicker with each other. Everybody's going to have differing opinions. It's always going to happen. But to always be optimistic and hopeful, and to lift each other up. So if even in going into the month of May, I know there's different organizations and different stuff, like I said, different opinions, but to not argue with each other and to not get involved in bitter nonsense, but to lift each other up and to support different efforts. And even if you don't agree with it, that doesn't mean that you've got to go across social media, slamming it and discouraging other people and being toxic. So just really lift each other up. And like I said, the way that we ended in Pennsylvania, I don't think there was a dry eye there. We all joined arms as a community and realized that this is on us. There's no, there's really no one out there that's fighting for us. It's us as a community. So if things are going to change, if we're going to get better diagnostics, if we're going to get a cure, if we're going to be treated with respect and told, because right now we have an imaginary disease. Our disease does not exist. We're residual damage from a disease that does exist. So if we ever do want that accepted, it's going to be on us as a community to come out. And I say this every year, and people sometimes take it the wrong way. But if you're healthy to the point where you can sit up in a chair, and if you're in a semi-local area and you have the funding, we definitely encourage you to come out to these events. We have people fly all the way from California. I don't think Jen's on here, but my friend Jen, she has cancer. She's completely lost all of her hair, and she's fighting Lyme disease. And she sold her own belongings. She put stuff on eBay. She did what she had to do to get over here. And she by no means has any money. She lives off disability, I believe. And just a real inspirational person. So the biggest thing that we can do with these guidelines being reviewed is to show up in Arlington, Virginia en masse. Because if we show up there with 75 to 100 people, they think that we're just a group of loony, sick Lyme patients, and that or there's something else wrong with us. But if we show up 300-400, what are they going to do with that? There's absolutely nothing that they can do. Not only does it help us get media coverage a lot easier, not just locally in the DC metro area, but nationally. Why are there 400 or 500 people out in front of this building? That's big news. So that's what I want to encourage you. If you're on the fence about it, consider it. If finances are a reason, we've said that we've got rooms that will get you in. There's carpools all over the place. Whatever it is that you can do, if your body can physically make the drive and push, get there. We'll take care of you. Like I said, it's a community. We're fighting together. Essentially, you guys should be looking at each other as brothers and sisters. and kind of following in the footsteps of the AIDS community. I mean, there was a lot of love there. I know that primarily it was homosexual community, and that's why they got a lot of attention, because it was a controversial issue at the time. But, you know, we span from 10 years old all the way up to people in their 70s. There's no specific demographic that exists for us. So, you know, we're all going to have different opinions. We're all going to come from different walks of life, but keep encouraging each other. And, you know, if you guys come out to these events, rest assured that we do everything to ensure the safety of the public, and we do. We put on a good protest. This year is going to be the biggest one that we've done by far. We've got a lot of props and just different things that we're going to use that we feel will be really effective. So if you have any questions, you can email them through the website. You can message me. You can message Allison, Amber, any of the people that are on the committee. And like I said, the science is out there. I encourage you guys to go over it and start flooding the IDSA with your comments. Just take your time as you write it. There's no rush. You know, we have till April 9th. And encourage each other. That's pretty much I've got to say. Allison, did you have anything that you wanted to say before we close? Okay.
No, I'd just like to thank everybody for making it.
Yeah, guys, I definitely appreciate you taking the time to get on here and for your kind words and you know, for attending. And you know, it means a lot to us. We put a lot of work into this, and you know, this is for some of us, this is what we pretty much eat and sleep. So our hearts are definitely in this to see change, and you know, we're trying to work with other Lyme organizations to see that real change comes, that it's not just false hope. So keep your heads up, guys, keep fighting, and you know, we'll hopefully see you in May. Everybody have a good night.